All right, everybody. We have a good video today. It is Sean Paul Davis here with you, and we are talking about good debt versus bad debt with John Hope Bryant. He's going to be giving a breakdown, and this is a reaction video to what he has to say about good debt versus bad debt, leasing versus buying, renting versus buying, assets versus liabilities. Let's take a look and see what he has to say. John Hope Bryant is one of the entrepreneurs that I've been looking at a couple of the videos lately. I've seen him on the Breakfast Club, different other platforms, and now doing a reaction to one of his videos. All right, let's get into it.
Hey, this is John Hope Bryant. This is Money and Wealth. The theme of this episode is demystifying money. That's right. Starting with simple terms that no one explains to you, that people expect you just to understand when no one has taught you any of this. Things like equity, stock, debt, versus assets versus liabilities, good debt versus bad debt. Is there a difference? And things like leasing. Why would you do a car lease versus buying the car, purchasing and financing the car? These are, really important concepts that can change your whole life and has changed mine, but no one's taught you any of this stuff. Now, somebody's going to
Never
say to
none of the
you,
stuff
I
is
was
cool.
talking
So
to
let's see what he
a
got.
guy earlier tonight who is in the music business, and he bought his real estate for cash. And he's very proud of that. And he should be proud that he was able to do that. So I'm not hating on him for being able to do that. He made the money and he wanted to control his real estate. But the question is that the smart thing to do? Well, it's a safe thing to do as long as you can afford to do it. You pay your property taxes and all that stuff. But you're not getting proper leverage on your money. There's not a billionaire in existence that did not use good debt to become a billionaire. All right. So that's another podcast episode for another time.
Hmm.
By the way, I'm not encouraging you to go into debt. I'm telling you there's good debt and there's bad debt, just like there's good people and bad people, right? There's good capitalism and there's bad capitalism.
One thing I would say during the housing crisis about 3 or 4 years ago, when they had the lowest rates possible, people were buying houses straight cash. Also, people that had cash on deck was able to put more cash down in order to secure the lower interest rates. Around that time, that's when I bought my house. I bought my house and locked in at 2.8. So let's see what else he has to say.
So let me start off by saying there's no shame in this game. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. So I want you to be committed to asking questions, right? And not being embarrassed. I asked Quincy Jones, who's a big brother and a mentor and a friend, man, how'd you get so smart? He said, John, I'm just nosy as hell. I want to know everything about everything. I want you nosy. This young lady approached me and asked me a very wise question, although I think she felt unintelligent when she said it, but I'm so proud of her that she felt comfortable enough around me to ask the question. She's about 24 at the time that she asked me this question. She was a friend of a friend, is a friend of a friend, and we had spent a little bit of time together. And I guess she felt comfortable enough to ask me in a moment when just she and I were standing together alone, John, what's equity? Like, what's a stock? And I was so proud of her because it's what you don't know that you don't know that's killing you, but you think you know. And everybody around her in her generation probably doesn't know the answer to that either. Young African American female, not raised in a household that deals with investment.
Hmm.
And she wanted to be the first one in her family, I believe, who wanted to break out of that mode and to become an investor. Not just Black Lives Matter, but Black Capitalists Matter. Can I get an amen? So I was proud of her. And we sat there and demystified these terms for a minute. So Equity literally is, ownership. It is.
When it comes to asking questions, you have to be aggressive, not aggressive in a bad way, but you want to be aggressive when asking questions. When I was younger, some gentleman of a friend or of the family used to call me questions because I used to continue to ask so many questions at a young age, and so that was my nickname, Question. So it's good that he's talking about that because a lot of people will hide in the cut or hide somewhere and not ask questions. So gotta ask questions. I mean, I was asking questions on how to stream on YouTube and doing all this type of stuff. Although I could research it myself, I do that too. But I also ask to see if the information is coming together. So therefore, I know I have a good hypothesis on what to do.
The net value of something. So if you own, I'll make this simple. You own a house, and the house is appraised for $200,000, and you owe $100,000 on that house, in hopefully good debt. That house has a net equity of $100,000. You owe the home appraised with an independent appraiser, not your cousin Pookie and them, not somebody trying to hook you up and do you a favor. An independent appraiser appraised the house for $200,000, and you have debt of $100,000 in this example. You have net equity of $100,000. That is what you own. That is your net value of net of the debt. Can equity be something other than a house? Yes, you have equity all parts of your life. In all parts of your life, you can have equity in all parts of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Is a stock a form of equity? It can be, absolutely. If you own that stock free and clear, and if that stock has some value, well, actually, even if it doesn't have any value to the external world, if you bought that stock, you own that stock, you have equity in that company. Now the market will determine whether that equity is valuable. I'm going off on another tangent. I'm going to do a whole podcast dedicated to just investment. So put that aside for the moment.
I may do a reaction.
I'm going to just do a treetop sort of seminar, a master class on these demystifying these terms, so that you have a basic understanding of how to play in this world, because it's what you don't know that you don't know that's killing you, but you think you know, and no one taught you. So it's not like you're dumb or you're stupid. No one gave you the memo. That was my, I think my fifth book. And this goes back to the Freedmen's Bank of 1865. Abraham Lincoln created a bank to teach freed slaves about money, and he was assassinated the next month. No one ever taught you about money. No one taught you how this free enterprise system works, right? So how would you know the rules of this game unless somebody takes time to teach you? And you're smart. And as soon as you get the memo, you'll use it and you'll amplify it. So let's break this stuff down. There are assets and there are liabilities, right? And then good debt and bad debt, right? And then I'm going to deal with one last piece in this podcast on leasing. When to do it, when not to do it. Get all your folks around the mic, around the microphone, around the headphones, around the kitchen table, around around the barbecue. Get your posse together. Get your book club together. Hopefully someday your investment club together. Get your girls together. Get your boys together. Let's have a weekly conversation. This is my ministry of finance. This is my pulpit, right? Every Thursday, breaking this down for you in a simple, explainable way, not using 20 words when two will do. I've been here before. I'm telling you stuff that I would have wanted to have known, and unfortunately, in most cases, learned the hard way, messing up, toe up from the flow up, losing a lot of money, and sometimes being just taken advantage of, just being punked. All right, so here you go. Assets versus liabilities. Well, first of all, your assets cannot be on your. You figure that out in your. This is radio, so there's only so much. And I don't know the age of people watching this. I want this to be family friendly, so you'll figure that out. But your assets cannot be worn on your body. Well, they can be worn on your body, but that's not typically where you're going to find your assets. All right. Are clothes assets? I guess you value them. They look good on you.
Sounds like he's going to go into the realm of people wearing designer clothes, the Louis, the Gucci, the Birkins, all that other stuff. Is that really the assets that you want to wear? I mean, I heard Birkin bags do appreciate in value, but at the same time, is that what you want to put your last dollar on to invest into making the money? So let's listen up further and see what else he has to say.
But that's not a traditional asset. It's something you own, right? So that's not really what we're talking about here. But a lot of people think the clothes are assets, and they use bad debt to finance non-assets, which makes a bad situation worse. I'll get to that in a minute. Um, so what are some examples of assets? Home ownership is an example of an asset. Uh, People say wrongly, "Oh, I don't own that home. The bank does. Why am I paying on that home?" Well, you only not own the home. You only do not own the home if you don't pay the bill. Then yes, the bank can foreclose on you, and the bank will own the home, as it should be. I might say, you don't pay me, I'm going to own your home if I loan you money, right? And if you loan somebody some money in your family to buy a home and they don't pay you back, you want your money back. No need to get emotional about stuff like this. It's just business. And if the bank loans you money and you beg the bank or ask the bank to loan you money and you got it on good terms, you went through Operation Hope's credit counseling program, you got your credit score up, got your debt down, your savings up, got you pre-qualified for a prime loan, you got that loan. In a year or two down the road, your situation changes, you screwed up, you didn't call the lender, they foreclosed. Don't curse the lender out, right? The lender's doing their job, right? And don't get an attitude when they want the house back and start calling them a bunch of names. Reality is it just didn't work out. It's an experiment that didn't work out. And when your outflow exceeds your inflow, then your overhead will be your downfall. Uh, and be thankful the lender gave you access to credit. Explain what your situation is. Try to find an orderly way to get the house back to them, and hopefully you sustain that relationship, because relationship really is a form of capital. Relationship capital. It is, in my opinion, in my life, an asset. And you can go back to that bank at another time and try again. So home ownership is the easiest way to build wealth, in my opinion. Home ownership. So home ownership is an asset. Family is an asset. This is a non-traditional asset.
One thing I would like to add, being a homeowner myself, uh, it is great. I haven't got to the started renting out properties yet, but I'm I got my single home family residence now. Um, the only thing I probably would say I missed about living in an apartment or somewhere where I was renting is that I didn't have to pay for any break fixes or anything like that. But here at my home, I became an electrician. I became the plumber. I became what they call the maintenance man. So I'm the guy that's repairing everything around the home myself. Unless it's too big, like I just replaced my water heater. Just got a new air conditioner. Um, Also, for instance, recently the ballast on one of my light fixtures had went out. I guess they go out every 20 years. And when I got a quote from the electrician, he said $200. When I went to YouTube University, I was able to fix the ballast for $30 by going to Home Depot and getting the part myself. So, um, you know, it all depends. I would say that was the only part I miss about having the rent to rent my living quarters.
And I'm going to do a whole piece on marriage. But if you're in a relationship and 2 plus 2 does not equal 6, 8, or 10, then you're probably in the wrong relationship. You should be better together. Your children are assets, not traditional assets. You're not going to get a loan on your children, but you're investing in them, and hopefully that investment is going to pay off. Now, are kids also a liability? Yes, they are actually. This is one of the situations where a child can be a liability and an asset. They're probably a physical liability until they're 18, that you're literally liable for them. They are literally a liability, and they're spiritually an asset. Now, you say, well, John, stop messing around. Give me some stuff that's real that I can put my hands on. Okay, stand by. Home ownership, we talked about that. Family, we talked about that.
Mhm.
And I mean, if you don't see your family, your mate, as an asset, you need to reevaluate who's your mate, right? Um, if you don't, your children are growing up to be assets, you need to reevaluate how you're raising your children and how your children are responding to your family rearing experience. That's a conversation between you and them, but you need to evaluate that on the regular. I'd rather you respect me and learn to like me than like me and never respect me. Another podcast for another time. Bonds, investments, stocks. Um, these are assets. Uh, Business ownership. This is an asset. I'm giving you 5 examples. Here's one that's accessible to everybody. Education is an asset. Literally, the more education you get, the better you do in your life if you apply it.
Remember last episode I talked about me being back in school, and I was getting an education so I can read between the lines and actually apply it to life. So I'm glad that, as a multimillionaire, billionaire, this guy is bringing that up, and also so I can gives me confidence to continue. I got classes starting. I'm filming this on January 1st, 2025. I got classes starting on January 13th. So gives me confidence and motivation to finish the semester strong, to start it off strong and finish it off strong. So let's keep going.
You earn 7 figures more having a college education than you will having a high school education over the course of your life. It's always better to be more educated. I'm obsessed with education. I think we need to make smart sexy again. And you need to shove as much education down your throat as you can manage. It is a buffer against poverty. Education is the ultimate poverty eradication project. You cannot get enough of it. So here are 5 easy assets. I could probably list 25, but I gave you 5 to start. Here are 5 liabilities. I've already mentioned your kids. That's a literal liability until they are of legal age. They are literally reliant upon you, and also the government says that they are a liability of yours. You can write them off literally on your taxes, and what they do is on your dime, and your responsibility. Cars. Most cars are a liability. They are a depreciating asset. So you have appreciating assets and you have depreciating assets. And I'll get to this in a minute, really deeply in the debt conversation. A car is typically a depreciating asset. Credit cards are liabilities. That's not cash. Okay. When I was growing up, the joke was, I can't be broke. I still have checks left. These days, we used to float checks back in the day. Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. You're my age. You know what I'm talking about. You wrote that check, and you maybe forgot accidentally, intentionally, not to put a stamp on the envelope. I've said this before, but you can tell it the 1-800 number. I sent the check. I sent the bill in, and wait for them to snail's mail for them to receive the payment and process it and all that stuff. It maybe bought you a week to 10 days to get the cash to put it in the bank before the check cleared. Today, things are digital. Money's digital. Things are almost instantaneous. So people think that, and before the checks, you had cash, and when you're paying in cash, that money's leaving your hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember giving somebody a tip earlier tonight for $20. I remember, but I don't remember the last time I swiped $20 when I went to pay for parking. I don't remember that. I remember that cash I gave, right? So young people are not, it's not emotional. It doesn't tug on you. People actually think that credit cards is cash. It's not. People say, most people don't have $400 for an unplanned event. This reporter was like, no, John, you're wrong. People have credit cards. Again, hello, that's not your money.
It's good that he said that, because although I do have crypto, credit cards, debit cards, I still do like to use cash, especially in my town that I live in. It's a small town. You want to keep the cash flow going in and going out. So therefore, you can keep that as not an asset, but you want to keep that the cash flow in. So to make sure that the money actually matters, or else eventually they're going to say everything digitizing money, cash actually would not matter. So as a currency, as a fiat currency, would not matter. So yeah, it's good that he's talking about something like that.
So you have credit cards. That's a liability. Charge cards are a liability. Charge cards are different from credit cards. Charge card, like an American Express, you can charge on it. You got to pay it in 30 days. Credit card, you can pay it over a term. You have department store cards. These are almost the biggest ripoff um, because many of them are hitting, they're really beautiful, shiny, whatever. They're hitting 26,
Never get the
28% interest rate. My
department store
God, it's like
card,
nosebleed stuff.
Macy's,
And
Target, none of
and
that.
by the way, I used to have these cards. I used to have department store cards. It's the only way I could finance my business when I was coming up. I had a Pep Boys card for my auto repairs. I had a Sears card. Yes, I'm dating myself for clothes. I had a Macy's card. I mean, I have these different credit cards. I had a secured credit card, and that was my capital because I didn't have uh, a trust fund. I didn't have financial. I didn't have inheritance, so I had to, I had to make do with what I had. Been
Mhm.
doing so little. Some black folks have been doing so much with so little for so long. We can almost do anything with nothing. There's no shame in that game. Lots of pride, but then we have to graduate to new ways of doing things. Let's now talk about. So I listed 5 assets as examples and 5 liabilities as examples. These are easy ones, right? Um, and let me now talk about good debt and bad debt. Is there such a thing? Absolutely. Just like there's good capitalism and bad capitalism. So good capitalism is where where I benefit and you benefit more. Bad capitalism is where I benefit and you pay a price for it. So slavery was bad capitalism. All right. Robbing somebody and then selling what you robbed is bad capitalism. Creating a comb as an entrepreneur, creating a comb to manage hair, nappy hair, okay, or tough hair, and somebody paying you for the value of that. So it costs you $2 to make it. You're selling it for $10. You're making a profit minus manufacturing of $2, whatever your profit margin is. And somebody buying that finds that valuable for them is worth $100 for them to maybe invaluable for them to comb their hair. So fair exchange is no robbery. To quote my friend Rod McGrew, fair exchange is no robbery.
Hmm.
I did it. I benefit. You benefited more. Good debt and bad debt. Now, listen to me. Please write this down. Good debt is tied to a asset that might appreciate. Bad debt is financing an asset that will depreciate. Will certainly depreciate. Stupid assets that you finance with bad debt or stupid things that people finance with bad debt are things like jewelry. And I don't mean a symbolic thing like an engagement ring or a wedding ring. I don't mean something where you're saving your money up, but you just can't accumulate enough cash for that special moment. You want to get married, you want to get engaged, something that'll last forever. This is actually an emotional asset. This is that family thing I talked about earlier. See, we're tying this all together. So you might have in this example, an example where you're financing a depreciating asset, but because it's tied to what you're building, your family, is actually a spiritual asset that makes it worthwhile for you and maybe gives you more energy to go out there and conquer in the world. So I'm not hating on your decisions. I'm just explaining it. When you buy jewelry, most jewelry, right? I don't care where you buy it from. The likelihood is it will depreciate in value. It will go down. Financing a car is a depreciating asset. Okay, so John, this you make not making any sense now. You're saying that you're calling a car a depreciating asset, and you own cars, John. What's the thing? You're not. Do you own your car cash? Well, I own some cars or cash, but I like to finance cars. It's a good use of my cash to keep it in my pocket and pay a lender for the use of that automobile while I own it. All right. Use of money. But that car is making me money, allow me to build wealth. It's taking me to a meeting. Hello. It's taking me to a conference. It's taking me to my office. So it's facilitating a money-making or wealth-building activity.
So I get them on the jewelry and things like that. People wear a lot of jewelry and they customize it. And when you customize it, to me, I feel like it just depreciates because after you customize it and do what you do, only you could wear it. So what does it mean? I mean, yeah, you can pawn it and stuff, but you won't get the full value that you actually bought it for. Uh, Also, I like how he's talking about with this car. Um, it's taking him to his meetings, his business meetings, his business journeys that he goes on. So he probably finances the car and puts him probably in his business name and writes him off or whatever. I've seen a lot of big moguls do that and call it as a tax write off, especially those who buy like G wagons and things like that. I guess because it weighs over 6,500 and you use it for 50% of work. Something I seen in another video. But let's get back to this.
So it is not the asset, but it's a gateway to an asset. In which case, that's me, right? And it's allowing me to go and flow. But I understand when I buy that car that it's going to go down in value. Now, I just had an experience where I bought a car and kept it for a couple years, drove it, and sold it. It was a exotic automobile, a rare one, not a rare one, but a highly prized brand. And I actually made a profit on that car. I didn't buy it to make a profit. It just so happens I did. And then I took the profits of that car and another car I sold that lost value. I actually thought the car that lost value would sell for more. I thought the car that sold for more would sell for less. It was actually the opposite of what I thought, but they canceled out each other. The one I lost value on was washed out by the one I made money on, and I was able to purchase replacement vehicles that were newer without harming my cash flow because I have good credit score, and I was able to take the proceeds from the sale and buy down the balance on the new purchases, and I was able to get warranties for the new cars. I did not have warranties for the old cars. There was a lot of reasons why upgrading was the right time. It's a non-emotional decision. I didn't say, "Oh, I'm not selling this car. I'm emotionally connected to it." Whatever you make an emotional decision, it's going to be a bad decision. Please listen to me. Whenever you make an emotional decision, it's going to be a bad decision. People are financing.
Every book I've read talks about the emotions when it comes to money investing. You have to take the emotion out. Rich Dad Poor Dad told me that. This book by From Success to Failure, I think by Frank Betcher, told me that you want to take the emotion out, or I mean, if you don't take the emotion out, you will make a bad decision. You want to make a logical decision with your brain up here, and not a decision based on your heart.
Um, Sports tickets. Eh, eh, eh. Not. There's how you hear about these folks, middle class folks paying $2,000, $5,000, $800 for a single ticket to a game. What are you thinking? How are they doing it? Debt. They're financing it and paying for that over time. And most people get paymentized. They ask what's the payment. Never ask what the payment is when there's an interest rate attached. Never ask what just the payment is when there's an interest rate in terms attached. You want to know how much you paying for that momentary value of going to that game. And that game is going to come, it's going to go, it's going to be 2, 3, 4 hours. You're going to, have that experience and it's done, right? Like going to Las Vegas, it's done. And do you want to be paying for that for the next 5 years? Because that's the likelihood. And I know folks who finance a car rental. I didn't want to mention the name. A single car, and I'm not picking on a company, a single car rental. People are financing that. People are financing again game tickets. They're financing vacations. Oh my God. You go to a vacation, may not even like the person you went on the vacation with, you have an argument.
Here's the thing that I'm seeing from Robert Kiyosaki in my last video and what John Hope Bryant is talking about. Um, People financing things that are not, this is part of the bad debt part. People financing things that are not going to have a ROI, which is a return on investment. So that mean, if you finance, say if you go to the grocery store and or if you're going out to eat and you use Affirm or Klarna, which they're giving you access to do that now. You can put that dinner, if you're at a steakhouse, you can put that steakhouse dinner onto your Affirm card. So therefore, not only are you adding tip, which is over the menu price, and then you're adding interest on top of that, that you're gonna have to pay that back. So I mean, you can honestly pay 200 or a 100% uh, increase on what the bottom line of what you originally were paying. So you want to stay away from things like that.
Whatever it is, end up coming in a funk, and you have financed this whole thing and pay for that for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. If you're paying $1,000, but you're financing $1,000, but you're spending $4,000 to $5,000 to finance it over time, or even double that, 2,000 or 2,500, aren't you offended? So just, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm explaining. I'm saying you want to finance appreciating assets, not depreciating assets. Things like a mortgage, a good mortgage, a prime mortgage. Operation Hope can help show you how to do that for a home. Like buying a business or starting a business. Like I believe, okay, I don't mind financing an education. I prefer if you didn't, but I don't mind it because it will pay a dividend. It's a return on assets because, as I said earlier, if you get a college education not in basket weaving or some miscellaneous thing, I mean something that has gainful employment tied to it, a career path, and specificity of return on investment. In other words, there are people, if you get a computer engineering degree, if you want to make sure you never go broke, get an engineering degree on anything, computer engineering, mechanical engineering. I mean, any kind of engineering, you will have a job for life, right? And be gainfully employed is my guess. And so that education, going to get an engineering degree, will in all likelihood provide a return that is unequal to most anything else that you do with the same amount of money that you'd make an investment on. So I've given you example of assets and liabilities. I've given you examples of good debt and bad debt. Bad debt, again, is financing a depreciating asset, financing shoes, financing clothes. They will depreciate. Before you walk, financing a car, before you leave the car lot, you've lost 10%. If you finance that car, leave the lot, drive down the street, turn back around, come back, sell the car back to the dealership, they will buy it for 10% less than you just bought it for an hour before. I'm going to do a whole podcast just on the automotive industry. I'm going to break down a lot of different industries and show you how this stuff works, how these businesses actually make their money. How are they in business and how does the economics work? And if you have a topic that you want me to talk about, just leave a note, leave a comment wherever you find me on social media or the podcast, and me and my team will float those up to be included either in me answering a question or as a topic in the actual podcast. So, depreciating assets are things that will go down, are likely not likely to go down in value. They will go down in value. Many of them have no value at the time that you're financing them. Do you know that, like jewelry? I was picking on jewelry earlier, but why? Because the marketable in that is just crazy. You're not just buying precious jewels, and then there's different types of diamonds and different types of metals and mixed metals and all. You can't outsmart a jeweler. and it's sparkly, and it's got your eyes twinkling, and oh my God, you're gotten all emotional about the thing, and I mean, you just can't win, or you just can't win. Do you know that Las Vegas keeps getting bigger? Have you noticed that? You can't win against the house. The house always wins. Jewelry maker will always win.
Hmm.
You buy something for $1,000 or $5,000 of jewelry, you financing it, you go and sell that same $1,000, whatever it is, ring, necklace. If you can get $250 or $500 for it in the future, call yourself lucky. And the financing cost is going to go up while the value will go down, meaning because you're going to finance it and then you own interest, which is compounding on that.
Over.
Okay, now let me talk about one last thing, which is car leasing, auto leasing. No one explains this to anybody. Like, here's the basics. If you have a depreciating asset, um, then you probably want to lease it. If you have an appreciating asset, then you don't mind financing it. By the way, that's not a great example. But if you're buying high-end vehicles, this example, brand new high-end vehicles, and you're not going to keep it for a long time. These are people now people listening now who make six figures now, and you like high-end vehicles, and you have a business that you can write the vehicle off to, then you are a prime target to lease, because you're going to roll that car. You're going to keep it for, unlike somebody who buys a car and may keep it for 3, 5, 8 years. You're going to probably keep that car you lease, in this example, for 18 months, 24 months, and then you're going to roll that into another car, and into another lease, is my example, in all likelihood. Well, the way they finance, and you're going to you're able to write off, if you do it properly, the cost of a lease, where you cannot write off the cost of a purchase, at least not easily. There are other benefits. Leasing is just designed for business people more easily. And the payments on a lease are going to be less than a payment if you finance the car. Here's why. Now this is for any car now. You take a car that costs $100,000. I'm just rounding this up. Maybe the car is $50,000. Maybe it's $10,000. It doesn't matter. But let's say, just for round numbers, it's a $100,000 car, and the financing company that's behind the leasing company, because oftentimes behind a leasing company is a bank or a financier, right? So you're dealing with XYZ leasing company, but there's a financing vehicle behind that. And they have underwritten, they have measured the risk of not only you as a borrower, but the underlying asset, the vehicle. They have come to the conclusion that that car that you're buying for $100,000 in 3 years, which is the term of your lease, will be worth, in this example, $50,000. So it'll be worth half. You're now going to have a lease payment over 3 years that's going to spread out the $50,000 of lost value in those 3 years. You're going to spread that out on payments. Let me give you a better example where it makes more sense. If you're, again, this is mostly applies to high-end vehicles, but if you're buying a Ferrari, or you're buying whatever, I'm not telling you to buy these cars. I'm just giving you a real clear example. And you're buying a Ferrari for, $250,000, whatever the number is, right? And the residual value of that car is projected to hold its value. The residual value of that car in 3 to 5 years is projected to be, $175,000 to $200,000. Let's say $175,000. You're buying it for $250,000. So you're going to lose $75,000 of value over 5 years in that lease. This is a good deal for you, because now you just have payments that are spread out over the term of that lease, 3 to 5 years, on that $75,000 versus the whole $250,000. And you have a balloon payment at the end of the lease where you can pick up, or you can buy the car for the remaining balance plus any fees you owed, as long as you've maintained the terms of the lease. Now, you're renting that car with the lease, where when you buy the car.
I kind of knew that towards Lisa, but he's breaking it down in a way that I think a 4-year-old can understand.
As long as you, again, no different than a mortgage, as long as you adhere to the terms with your lender, you own that car. So if you're leasing the car, you got to check with the owner, the leasing company, before you make some moves about the car. You can't send that car to Peru or Africa or someplace. But if you finance that car, you own that car. As long as you make those payments, you own the equity of the car minus the debt. And within reason, unless there's some restrictive covenants in the loan agreement. A covenant is an agreement within the agreement. Unless there's a restrictive covenant in the loan agreement, you can do as you like. Okay, I hope that was that confused me. I hope that was somewhat clear. I just unpacked the magic of leasing recently because I was considering doing a lease myself for something, a car lease myself. I found a lot of benefits to it. Um, you got to check with your tax pro for yourself, but I found a lot of business benefits to auto leasing for my business. Uh, but I decided in the example that I was looking at not to lease it. Did not make sense for me. But I went through all the numbers. I would have had a slightly lower monthly payment, but the terms of the agreement just were not economically it wasn't all that attractive in the long run, and they put a lot of restrictions on what I could do with the car. And I mean, look, they own it. And in an example, I don't, and I'm a control freak, and I want to own my stuff and do as I like, right? So I decided I'd rather put money down and buy the car, so I have equity in the car, and I'll own the car in a short period of time, as long as I keep the terms, which I will. Okay, so I hope this has been good.
All right, looks like that's pretty much it. But the moral of the story, guys, is I wrote this down here. Good debt will appreciate, and bad debt will depreciate. Um, Hope you enjoyed this video, reaction video to this. This was John Hope Bryant. If you want to look at the full video on YouTube, you can go John Hope Bryant, Good Debt versus Bad Debt. I just thought I'll share this video with you guys so we can look at what is good debt and what is bad debt. And I think I'll probably do one more video on good debt versus bad debt to drive the point home. And let's stop sharing here. All right. So with that said, I want to before I leave out, I want to share some books that I've was talking about earlier. How I raised myself from failure to success in selling by Frank Betcher. That's the one of the books I was talking about with the talking about the emotion. Also, I got the original Rich Poor Dad from when it first came out. As you can see, over time it messed up. But that's another book that I got that talks about the emotions when investing. Also, I wanted to share with you. I bought it again so I could read it again. This is another version of Rich Dad Poor Dad. It does have a couple of updated text in here, so it says like this one. This one says with updates for today's world and 9 study session sections. So if you read it before and you got this original one here, this is one my dad gave me um, uh, probably 20 years ago, 22 years ago. And this is one I bought within the past year and a half. So if you read it before, you want to read it again with the updates. The provisions are pretty good and up to date in today's world, talking about the current new currencies that we have and things like that, and then new investment strategies. So if you like this video, please like it. If you don't mind, please subscribe. And that is it for Sean Paul Davis. Thank you guys. Have a great day.